What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Episode 9 of the FILA Sports Podcast. Here with your boy, Coach Mario, and my partner in crime, the Don. And we have a special guest today as well. But everybody knows on this show, everybody introduces themselves. What's going on today, Don?
What's good? Y'all know what we talking about there, right? You can see the cup.
He been waiting all day to do
It's good.
that.
It tastes so good drinking from a championship cup, man. It really do. But I'm how you guys doing this Sunday evening? And I'm glad y'all can be with us again this week. Once again, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. Please comment if you join us live. You can ask questions in our live chat on YouTube. Feel free to talk to ask anything, and we'll reply back to you. And once again, it's the FILA Sports Podcast. We cover all Atlanta sports. So, you ready?
Yep.
Holla at your
Holla
hometown
at your
sports
hometown
podcast.
sports podcast. We're working on it, Jay. We're working on it.
We
got a special guest today. Like I said on our show, you always introduce yourself, Jay. So let the people know who you are and where they can check you out at.
Thanks for having me on, guys. My name is Jay Riddle, and I am a co-host on a podcast dedicated to Atlanta United and Major League Soccer called Unrelegated with my co-hosts Kelly Francis and Jessica Sharman. And then also we're a member of the Atlanta United Fan TV Network, where I'm a presenter, camera operator, and editor now. So thanks for having me on. And, I'll see your championship cup with a little MLS Cup trophy here. There you go.
Oh man! Hold on, so they only sell those at the store, at the King store.
Yeah, if you buy something $30, you get one of 2018 MLS Cup miniature MLS Cups made.
So you can't buy it outright.
No,
Oh,
they give it to you when you buy something at the store. So, but yeah, there you go. So if you haven't been able to see the cup in person, this is the closest I could get without having glass around it.
So okay, I need to get that, man. I need to get that.
It's actually pretty weighty, man. It's pretty weighty. So
yeah, just don't take it to Magic City.
Oh, speaking of that, I don't want to get us off track, but I had a friend post a picture, and he had two Barbies around a pole with his miniature cup. So he reenacted the Magic City scene.
Do you have a picture of that?
Yeah,
you need to post it, man. You need to post it. Oh man.
All right, so I guess before we get into the talk that everybody's looking at, we can give you a rundown in Atlanta sports from last week. The Hawks. We'll start with the Hawks. On Tuesday, the Hawks were in Houston. They were losers of that one, 121-105. Thursday, we were back in I almost said the Phillips Arena, State Farm Arena. We still can call it
Same thing.
We were back in the State Farm Arena against Utah. We were able to pull that one out, 114-117, a little late game heroics there. And yesterday, we were also at home against the 76ers, and we were able to pull out a tight game. One thing you notice about these Atlanta scores is we can score some points. We just got to stop the other team from scoring.
Man, you know what, man? Our expectations for Trae Young at the beginning of the season, man, this man has been balling. Like, if we everybody keep talking about Zion, I don't even think we're gonna get first overall. I'm not finna get my hopes up. It'll be great if we have first overall pick, but they're not gonna give that to us. So if we can just get somebody, a good center, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. The NBA gonna give it to the Knicks.
Yeah, they'll get to New York, or they gonna give it to the Clippers. They gonna give it to some big market team, big market city team.
Of course. Yeah. What the Braves do this week, Don?
All right, the Braves spring training still is pretty much in full effect, almost over. It'll be over Tuesday. So opening day for the Braves will be this Thursday. But spring training last Monday, the Braves lost against the Yankees 7-4. Tuesday, they lost against the Nationals 3-2. Wednesday, they lost against the Toronto Blue Jays 8-7. Thursday, we lost against the Rays, Tampa Bay Rays 8-1. So it was a rough week, but Friday, like we turned things around against Detroit, and we won that game 4-3. And yesterday, we played the Mets, and they came and they pretty much beat us 12-2. And today we opened up the new spring training facility, Cool Today Park, I guess somewhere in Sarasota, Florida. And we beat Tampa Bay 4-2. And some news that's going on in Braves. I guess the Braves camp right now, they moved down outfielder Adam Duvall, pitcher Mike Soraka, and Tuki Toussaint, Rafi Lopez, and Dan Winker to AAA squad, the Gwinnett Stripers. They also acquired Matt Joyce from the San Francisco Giants in exchange for cash. And they also released pitcher Sam Freeman from the organization. And we got news earlier this week that Julio Teheran would make his 6th consecutive opening day start. I kind of figured that because he pretty much is the best pitcher we have right now. So, and I've been saying, for a long time, we need some more pitchers. Like Teheran is good, but if we can get 2 more solid pitchers in the rotation, I think we'll be great this season. All right. Once again, I said the season is going to start this Thursday. We're going to be on the road in Philadelphia to play the Phillies.
Yeah, I don't put too much stock into spring training. I believe I'm going to blame it on Nolan Ryan. I believe it was Nolan Ryan that once said, "In spring training, I'm trying to see what my defense can do. I'm just throwing BP." So I don't put much stock in spring training because a lot of times the pitchers are working on something specific and not necessarily throwing their out pitch or ground ball pitch or something like that. So I don't put a lot of stock into the spring training scores because sometimes the pitcher could have been serving up, watermelon balls easy to hit on purpose. So
those guys, just point, you put them in a nice facility in Fort Myers, man. They're not focused.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the Minnesota Twins used to train. If they're not still trained down in Fort Myers, when I would go down there. So it's a nice spot down there, though. It's nice to hear that they got a new training ground now.
Yeah. Well, much like I told you last week, I guess I'll give the report on the Legends. We got blown out again. Orlando this time, 36-6. It looks like the past 2 weeks that we can't stop anybody, but I believe that it's more telling, just looking at the scores, they look much more lopsided, but the offense is a much bigger problem than the defense. So the defense, we have to get stops. But when the offense continues to turn the ball over and give the other team twice as many times to score as normal, of course they're going to score twice as many times. So, we're getting blown out 2 weeks in a row. Had to pull Aaron Murray.
Yeah, I'm about to say they had to pull him.
Had to pull Aaron Murray. I was going to get to that part. I wasn't going to just shy. But like I said, I believe the defense is a much bigger problem than the offense. And safe to say that the Legends are struggling.
Well, there's one thing that's for sure with the Legends. Like Death Taxes and Young Ho Koo picking up 2 field goals a game.
Yeah.
At least he's helping us not to get blown out.
Hey, if he comes up with a hamstring, the season is a wash. Go ahead. I was gonna say, what did the other football team do?
Falcons, not that much noise going on, and Flower Branch this week. But we did sign Justin Hardy, so he's coming back for a 1-year deal. We don't know what the stipulation of his contract is going to be, but said this earlier this week that this could be the demise of Mohamed Sanu. Like if he doesn't take a restructure of his contract, and if we go into the draft and draft another receiver, I can already see that Sanu's going to be one of those casualties that's going to be gone on June 1st. So it's to save up money because and then another thing about the money is Julio Jones. They said Julio Jones is close to a big contract.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be 4 or 5 year deal worth $20 million a year. So, you know, like I said, somebody got to go. And we still haven't even paid Grady Jarrett, and they still in talks with Deion Jones as well. So,
okay, so that was our week in review. Episode number 9, as you guys can see from our special guest, Mr. J, that we are talking some soccer today. And one thing about it is, you know, last year the city was on such a high, with such a football town. Last year, Atlanta United took off. They got hot. Everybody bought in. You had casual. Oh, I'm sorry. I wouldn't even say I was a casual fan. I would only watch soccer, being honest, when the World Cup was on. I would get into the World Cup because it was just exciting. I can watch any sporting event where it's into it. You even had me getting into it, reading articles about the Atlanta United, trying to learn more about the players' games, trying to learn what a 3-5-3 and all this stuff is. And now this year, Jay, man, we haven't won a game out of the gate. We had a tie. What are we to do? Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's welcome to Major League Soccer, where parity where you have parity, right? Where you don't have these dynasties, where you can see a team dominate for 5 years in a row. It's rare that you see a team repeat in Major League Soccer because of these salary cap rules and all of these things meant to keep the league healthy, because early on they were just trying to keep the league from failing. So these things are maturing, and we're going to start to see some of the things change going forward. But for the foreseeable future, I think people just coming into the sport, it may be more of a shock to the system, especially because not that we're losing, but the way that we're losing, right? It's not as exciting to watch. And so that's a big part of the attraction to the team, right? Was that Latin American, that 4-2-3-1, the 3-5-2, like you talked about, Tata Martino's very attacking, pressing style, and then on the counterattack. And then, of course, we lost our big name, Miguel Almiron, right? And like any team that loses their marquee player, I would say even more so in Major League Soccer, when you lose a player like a Miguel Almiron, it's akin to losing a big name player like in the NBA, right? Where that could create a big vacuum. It could change the whole way you play. And that's what we're seeing now too. So we've not only do we have a new coach that wants to implement a different style, but we had 7 games in 24 days. We had international travel to Mexico. We had very difficult games against Monterrey, which is probably one of the top 4 or 5 teams in Mexico, who has twice their roster's worth 2 to 3 times more than ours. So these things are not excuses per se, but they just kind of put things in perspective, hopefully, for people that are just getting into Atlanta United. I don't think it's time to panic at all. I think we now have we're not in the CONCACAF Champions League anymore, so we don't have to worry about those matches, right? We've now got this international break. People have been able to rest. The coaches hopefully has more time to actually work on the new formations, where I think they were in such reaction mode where they didn't have time. And Jeff Lorenowitz even said it in a newspaper in the AJC. He said, listen, we didn't even have time to really get to know formations. We just had to prep for the next game, because the next game was always 2 or 3 days out. So, and then it became a fitness issue at the end, right? Where it's just tired legs. So I think the real litmus test is not even going to be in Columbus when they go to Columbus in a week. It's probably going to be after that, a couple weeks later. So I think, we probably won't have a good, clear idea on how this team is doing for maybe another month, because of we only have 2 games in like 3 or 4 weeks here coming up.
Yeah. It's just, to me, like I've been watching the games this year. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I only watched a few last year.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, to be honest with you, I didn't watch the MLS Cup. I only watched the last 3 minutes. The MLS Cup. Let me tell you why. As a fan of Atlanta sports since all I can remember, I cannot watch championship games. Like, I said to myself, I can't watch this, because the wound was still hurt. The wound was still like deep from 2016.
Right.
The Falcons, and I just said to myself, I just watched the last 3 minutes.
That was
And I,
underlying. Yeah.
and I followed, through ESPN and app and everything like that. And then the last 3 minutes came, I said, "Oh, we about to win a champ. We about to bring a championship to the city." So, but and everybody was excited and everything. And like we know, Tata Martino, he left, and they brought in Frank de Boer, and a lot of people, you have hardcore soccer fans who know they say, okay, this is a great hire, and you had some casual fans, like me. I'm thinking like, who is this person? Like, and I'm thinking like, this did they bring in Lex Luger? I remember Lex Luger from wrestling. Like he looked like Lex Luger a little bit.
Well, yeah, and he talks very, it's a different culture, right? The Dutch culture, so he sounds very serious all the time. I don't think he's actually that serious of a guy, but he comes off that way. I mean, there are some benefits, right? He speaks fluent Spanish, so right away, there should not be any major communication barriers. But as we know, just because you speak a language, if it's your second or third language, there's certain nuances you may miss. I think we learned that in the interview that he had, where he said that Atlanta United fans were spoiled, quote unquote. I listened to that interview. I watched it on video, and to me, it felt more like he was trying to say Atlanta fans are used to winning. Atlanta United fans are used to winning, but that word "spoiled" is in context. I mean, by definition, he's right, but it's a loaded word, right? So it starts to make you wonder, maybe, does he have communication issues? Even though he speaks the language, does he have communication issues with the team? You start to, anytime, it doesn't matter what sport, when you start to get a series of losses and expectations are very high, you start to ask questions of everything. You go, well, what is a communication issue? Do they just not have enough time? And so there's all these things spinning around. But the hopeful thing is, outside of Miguel Almiron leaving, which I think had a bigger impact than people realized, because he allowed Tata Martino to play that style of soccer. If he didn't have Miguel Almiron, it's unclear whether he would have been able to play the same style of soccer he did the last couple of seasons, because Miguel Almiron is so fast and he's so unusual for a midfielder in that he plays defense, and then he'll also can just burn two guys, two defenders, and completely toast them, and all of a sudden you're off to the races to the goal. So that style, that way of movement, that doesn't exist anymore. So that's a big challenge to figure out, how these new pieces. You have this South American Football of the Year. He's looked tired or disinterested, and people don't know what's going on with him. I mean, this guy didn't all of a sudden, PT Martinez I'm speaking of, he didn't all of a sudden forget how to play soccer, right? But he's also adapting to a new league, a new country, and it's like the perfect storm or perfect formula. The positive thing in MLS is parity makes it difficult, because you have teams that, you can basically have a completely horrible year and come back the next year and be a cup contender, or you can be the opposite, right? Even Portland Timbers, who we played, who made it to the finals, they're struggling. They look terrible. The Red Bulls, New York Red Bulls, who gave us fits, right, and were the Supporters Shield winners, which meant they won the most points out of the regular season. They just lost to Orlando, who are dreadful. So, but getting back around the positives, it's a long season, and what we've seen is Seattle just completely disinterested and terrible early on in the season, all the way to even August, and then come back and make the playoffs, because you have a playoff system. So that means you have a chance to make it into that playoff pool, at which point it could become anybody's game. So I think that it's an expectations game, and it's going to be interesting to see how the fan base, whether they're hooked in enough now where they start to adapt their expectations. If we start to get some wins, I don't think they're going to be the same kind of, like, where we're blowing teams out, with 3 or 4 goals on sometimes. I think if we do win and we make it to the playoffs, it's going to be a different style play. It may not always be the most exciting all the time. That may take time to get there for the players to click in, but I'm not too concerned yet. because I know that we have all these other pieces that we held on to. It's not like we went through where some teams lost, 5, 6, 7 key players, right? We held on. We re-signed Joseph Martinez, right? We still have Ezekiel Barco, who scored a goal, already this year and is looking much better already, and finding his place in Frank de Boer's system. So Julian Gressel, still have him. He's a machine. He's so consistent. And now we got Franco Escobar coming back, who, quite frankly, because we missed him, Frank de Boer said that's the reason he was actually playing this 3-4-3 system that looks so dreadful, was because he didn't have Franco Escobar because he had the collarbone injury. So now that he's back with the clavicle, he played with Atlanta United too, and he looks like he's warming up. So we should have him back as well. So who knows? MLS is one of these things where all of a sudden you can come back, you win 2 or 3 games, and all of a sudden you're back in it again. So
yeah, we went from under Tata. I guess we was an attacking team, and now this style of Frank de Boer, some people say it's very Europeanish.
It is very European. That's his style. It's very possession based, right? And that's what's frustrating, is the problem with possession soccer is if you don't have the attacking players clicking and guys running and making runs behind the defense, then you end up either drawing or losing games where you have 70-75% of the possession. So that's obviously pointless, and it's boring to watch. And I don't think anybody, especially Darren Eales, the president of the club, who specifically said when they hired Frank de Boer, they made clear that the goal is to maintain an attacking, attractive style of soccer. So, Frank de Boer is under a lot of pressure, because not only does he need to win, he needs to maintain that level of product that Darren Eales and Arthur Blank expect out of the team, and that's not easy.
As far as his comments, as far as the team being spoiled, Jay, I actually kind of gave him a pass on that, because when I first heard it, my first thought was, I'm assuming that there's a language gap right there, and that's not exactly what he meant, because I just don't see any manager or coach of any kind of club after a loss telling the fans that they're spoiled. So we should be okay with losing. So I gave him a pass on that, because I just immediately nah, that couldn't be what he meant. Yeah,
I think it's a nothing burger, but I understand. But that doesn't mean I don't understand why people did get a reaction or have a reaction.
I certainly understood the reaction, but I just immediately, and I'm a big baseball guy, so you see a lot of that times with baseball, especially with the foreign born players. Sometimes they don't express themselves exactly because the words that they would use in their culture. When you learn a second language, a lot of times you don't learn the what word am I looking for? The idiosms, okay, or the nuances, exactly. Yeah. So I gave a pass on that, because I just knew that's not what he meant. He couldn't have meant that.
But you got to understand this, and he also need to understand this as well. He's in Atlanta, okay? He's in Atlanta. We're used to, seriously, we're a sports town that's not used to winning.
And we got a taste.
Yeah, we got a taste of it.
Yeah,
we've been getting a taste. We have a taste of it last year when we won. We want to continue to win. We want to build a dynasty.
Yeah. I agree. I think that he did come out later and apologize the next day, and which is that, to me, that's all that matters, right? He's not tone deaf. So hopefully, he learns from it and is more careful with his words, because to be honest, the funny thing is, a lot of people forget that early in the season and stuff, people complained about the fact that Tata Martino really didn't communicate much with the press, that you couldn't get, because it was a language barrier, you couldn't get him on the radio and that sort of stuff. To his credit, after losses, whatever, Frank de Boer will get on 92.9. He will talk. Sometimes it's like, you just need to shut up, because he just keeps talking. And I'm like, that's when you get yourself in trouble, because you could tell he wants to be transparent. And you don't always agree with what he says. And sometimes you're not, it's unclear. He's vague or whatever, but at least he's up there. He's answering questions. So I got to give him some respect. I got to give him a shout for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just got to understand that, you got to be careful what you say, especially, with the 17s. That's the the group.
Atlanta Atlanta United Twitter is a monster, man. It is a monolith in soccer, in the soccer Twitter sphere. So yeah, I mean, when things start to, people don't miss much. I'll say that. I mean, they catch on to everything because our I would say the core Atlanta United, every sports team has a core base supporters where they're fanatics, right? They're and the Atlanta United fanatics, they listen to every podcast, every radio show, and they watch every Facebook video, so they catch everything. And then that often means that sometimes there's overreaction too. But I think watching the PT Martinez, play for Argentina. Sometimes you just have to sit back and kind of say, okay, wow, he may not be playing well for the team right now, but he's good enough for Argentina to start him alongside Lionel Messi, who is by far the debated between him and Cristiano Ronaldo, the best soccer player on the planet, right? So that's something you got to look at that and go, wow, an Atlanta United player is playing alongside Lionel Messi. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, BD Martinez had a slight injury, but hopefully it's nothing major from that. But still, I mean, context does help. I think me, anyways, put things into perspective, especially when I'm starting to get fired up, because I'm not an excuses guy. I expect winning. That's what we were sold. And also, there's frustrations because Frank de Boer even said before the season that he wouldn't tinker too much. And yet we saw the opposite. It felt like, and maybe it's a result of Franco Escobar being out, but it felt like he was tinkering too much. And then also he was using substitutions too late and also not rotating enough. And so I think those are three things that as fans are viable criticisms of the coach so far. So he's got a lot to prove coming out in these next couple of games. A lot of people are going to put a lot of weight on the results in Columbus, especially in the next couple of weeks. Although I still think that's too soon.
So what do you think it will take to turn it around?
Yeah, I think from what the players are saying, they seem to be pretty straightforward in that they don't think this is a formation issue, that's a distraction. It really does sound like they just have not had enough time because their preseason started, because you went to MLS Cup, you're playing all the way through December 8th. And then you got to turn around. They had 3 weeks and then boom, they're back, they're back at it again with all these new changes. And, Julian Gressel now has a blog that he started called GresselMania.com, where he actually, which is an unusual insight into a player where you can see what he's thinking and what he wants to talk about on a weekly basis with no PR person in front of it, no, person sitting next to him in front of the interview table. This is just his straight thoughts out to the internet. And he's a guy that I look to as a leader in the team and kind of measure the temperature of the locker room based off of kind of the things that he says, or like a Jeff Lorenowitz. And, he's kind of putting it in perspective and saying, listen, even the greatest teams in the world like Bayern Munich and Barcelona, Real Madrid, when they have coach changes, we've seen it even recently. You see it with Real Madrid. Just recently, they changed coaches. They won every trophy there was. Zidane, their coach, left, and then they're struggling, to even string any results together. And they have some of the best, and they lost a key player too in Ronaldo. So very similar circumstances, and they're struggling, and they have 100 times more money than we do, right? So it's sometimes it's just a matter of things taking time. And the thing is, it's so easy to say that, but as fans, we starve for some tangible proof of. I don't think most fans have ridiculous expectations either. I think most fans are smart, and if they see improvement of some kind, that's enough, right? But they need to see improvement. And the thing is, lately we haven't been seeing that improvement. We'll see it a little bit, and then it'll regress again. So I think what fans just want to see is, even if we don't win, is to see more attractive soccer, to see more improvement. And ultimately, I don't know what the answer is, but as long as Frank de Boer can keep the locker room over the next month or two and fight through whatever formational or learning issues are going on, I think that Atlanta United will be fine. But if he loses the locker room, then we have problems. If he loses like Tito Villalba, who was sitting on the bench for a while and just didn't look happy, who is our key marquee, our very first designated player signing, okay, the heart of Atlanta United. If he loses a player like that, then things could start to have problems, I think.
Hey, Jay,
but we all know Arthur Blank do not like to hold on to any, if it's United or the Falcons. He not a really patient person. So Frank de Boer, if you want to keep his job here, you gonna have to know.
That's the price of winning and being the best, right? So,
hey, Jay, you know what it sounded like you just said?
What's that?
Atlanta fans are spoiled. But the hardcore, like I've been paying attention, like hardcore soccer fans, because I follow some of them and listen to them. And matter of fact, I work with one down here in South Georgia. He's a hardcore Atlanta United fan.
Yeah.
And he told me a couple of weeks ago, he said it's a learning curve we just got to get through. And he said that we should be fine. Hopefully by the middle of the summer, we should be, in our conference. We should be at the top. But it's just casual Atlanta fans who just became fans back in December who were upset that because we FILA Sports Podcast, we cater to the casual fans.
But that's fine, because it doesn't matter if you're casual or not. If you go to a match, especially, you're paying a lot of money, and sure, soccer games are not as much as an NFL game or things like that, but it's all relative, right? I mean, for a soccer match, you're also only getting an hour and a half of entertainment, so so you're also getting half the time in the stadium. So either way, you're paying money, parking, time, energy out of your day to go and so I think that fans have a right to put the pressure on. And the thing is, this is not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to have a segment of fans that are lighting fires and saying, I think it's funny. I think it's silly to be like De Boer out, or, we need to get rid of the coach and that sort of stuff. But I think it's a sign of it's better than being complacent and not caring, right? Yeah. When you start seeing people just stop caring, and, that's when it's a big problem. This is fine. I'm okay with this, because this to me is showing that just like the biggest cities in America, the LA markets, the New York market, where, there's firings regularly, the pressure's on, you're expected to win. I think that's okay to start building that culture. And that comes with that rabid fan base. You're gonna have the hot takes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was about to say that, Jay. I'm born and raised here, but the Boston and New York media are notorious for, hey, and Philadelphia are notorious for, hey, not here, you're gonna get ripped. In Atlanta, compared to those cities, a lot of players get a pass.
Yeah.
And here in the city, we have a huge contingent of people from the tri-state area, from the Northeast, that I believe some of that is starting to change here. But for years, in the early 2000s and the early 90s, and players got a pass. Players got a pass. And quite frankly, we're thirsty. The Braves had their run. It only produced a championship. The Falcons, we've been starving for, championship. The Hawks have pretty much been written off. So I believe that lost two hockey teams. I believe that the basically in a gesture, this is the city's attitude now.
Stay thirsty, Atlanta. This is good. I think this is a good thing, because I think there's even more pressure on Atlanta United because of those things, right? Because they're the ones that won the most recent championship. They're the ones that touted themselves as going to be the first in CONCACAF Champions League to make it through and to try and raise the bar and all of these things. But they're also contending with challenges that they've never faced before, and it's still a young team, right? So these things like but Darren Eales has coached, a team that's, a top 4, top 5 in England, and Tottenham has been a leader and executive there, and so director of football. So, he's dealt with these things. So the good thing is we have a mature staff, we have a very professional staff, and a good front office that Arthur Blank has put in that if things start to go to hell in a handbasket, I mean, I don't expect to see Frank de Boer around for very. I think they'll be patient with him, but at the same time, if the wheels fall off the wagon, again, I don't think there's gonna be a scenario like in prior years in Atlanta sports where you see people get a pass. I think heads will roll. I just don't know. I'm not, psychic. I don't know what that marker is, or if does that mean like by September, if we're not near the playoff line, something happens. Like I don't know what that's gonna look like, but I have faith that the front office is not playing around.
Yeah, of course. We know AMB. That's that's Arthur Blank's company. That's the Falcons and United combined. We already know what their business. It's the best of nothing, and we he got to win. He got to win. And the thing, and everybody out there who's listening, we should be concerned when that attendance drop. When that attendance drop in Mercedes-Benz. And because remember, we have games that we don't cover that upper bowl, and we have games that's looking like that's under 30,000. That's when we need to be concerned.
Yeah, I mean, and Darren Eales, they've said their goal is to add. The first season we had like 4 matches at the full bowl, 70,000, whatever. Then we did 5 or 6, whatever, and we, and then this year we're trying to add 1 more. And so what you definitely don't want to see is to start seeing those. That will be the first telltale sign, I think, is if there's issues, is if you're not filling those 70,000 capacity. And they want to continue growing it. He said like they want to get to a point where almost every, if not every game could fill close to that. Right. And so they want to continue on that trek. And I don't think they're going to allow anything to threaten that momentum. Coach, doesn't matter how experienced the coach is or how much they paid him and that sort of stuff. They expect to make the playoffs and then expect to win MLS Cup, and then also we have this US Open Cup that I think is an opportunity now to play a lot of our younger guys and stuff and really see if Frank de Boer can prove out what he says he's good at, which is playing young players, which is what he did at Ajax and won tournaments, even with heavy rotation of young guys. So if that's what his game is all about, then put your money where your mouth is. We'll see it.
All right.
So Atlanta fans, stay the course. Stay the course. If you're a fan, accept the good with the bad. Stay the course. Take this time to get to know the players. Don't give up on them. Give them your support. Go see a game. I have told myself I'm going to at least 3 matches this year, and I'm definitely taking the whole family to a match. I'm looking forward to it, but stay the course. Stay the course. It seems like the team is still buying in, so let's as fans still buy in.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go get that. I'm gonna have to go to the team store. I don't even live in Atlanta, but this weekend, if I do have time, I'm gonna drive up, and
you getting that cup?
I'm gonna buy 30. I know I can buy $30 worth something there.
Just one T-shirt, I think these days.
Yeah, one T-shirt will pretty much cover or pajama bottoms or something.
Jay, we know he'll do the $30 for the cup because he was spending $10,000 to get him a ring. So Don is our money man because he was spending the $10K to get a ring. So Don,
be careful with that. Be careful. Waka Flocka lost his at a music festival. So
I'm pretty sure he did. I'm like, why didn't he give one to Archie, man? Archie should have. They should have gave one to Archie.
I think he did. I talked to him recently, so I think he's getting one. Yeah, but I would be surprised if he isn't. But and Archie and I, we text quite a bit, so I need to hit him up and ask him about that.
We're actually hoping to have him on the show very soon.
Oh, he's great. He's great. Yeah, definitely have him on. He'll have a kick out of this.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely been trying to have him on soon, and we're hoping to get that scheduled soon.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So, what is your clairvoyant, your Nostradamus? How is the season going to end? How will we fare? Well, I want a double-sided question, Jay. How will we fare in this next international competition, and what do you see the outlook for the season period being?
So I think that, being on a CONCACAF Champions League is actually a blessing. Now we can focus on Major League Soccer and the regular season. I'd like to see us go far and potentially win the U.S. Open Cup this year. I think we have the depth to do it. And so I think if especially watching the younger guys play in Atlanta United 2, the last few games, they look sharp. They look much more driven, much more focused than last season under their new coach, Stephen Glass, who came up from the academy after the Atlanta United 2 coach moved on to a new position with, I believe, the U.S. men's national team. But as far as the regular season goes, I don't know. I think that we still end up in probably at least 4th place, bringing us into the playoffs in a decent seed. And making a run to MLS Cup. And I say that because I've been watching other teams who were, sort of the staple teams you expected to make the playoffs struggle this year. And then there's some teams that you wouldn't expect that are doing quite well, like FC Cincinnati, the new expansion team. But at the end of the day, I just don't think those teams have the depth and the pieces to sustain results just because they're getting some early on against some weak teams. MLS is king for the one-off weird game. We saw it where we lost the Supporters Shield chance to win the Supporters Shield against Toronto, who had been crap all season, and they beat us 4-1. We lost our opener last year to Houston 4-0, and Houston didn't even make the playoffs. So, it's a silly league. The fact that they're bringing in and approved now, Don Garber, the president's approved betting on Major League Soccer. I highly recommend against that. It is probably the worst sports league to bet on because it is crazy. You just never know what's going to happen. But I think we'll be okay.
A lot of rules have changed. Even the playoff rules changed since we won the championship.
Yes.
I said, they can't never let Atlanta. Let Atlanta be great for once. Anytime, even like with the Falcons, a couple of years, every team wanted to have a high offense, and now they made rules of the, with the defense can't, do such.
It's the worst time for it's the worst timing for for us. It's the worst timing for these changes because what it means is that the regular season matters more. And what that means is, unlike last season where you could come in as a 6th seed and still, have a pretty solid odds as someone in the 3rd seed, for example, without the home and home games, if you're not in those top 2 seeds, it's going to be very, very difficult because you won't have home field advantage necessarily. So that's something that, if they implemented it in a year that is not ideal for us with all the changes going on. But hey, it also means that if you win it, it means even more, I think, too.
Yeah. We got to take care of business. Like, we just got to win out.
Yeah.
Win out.
No excuses.
I had an awesome idea in Atlanta because they've been, and this is a little off the subject, they've been discussing, people who not Atlanta, they've been casinos, bringing casinos and sports betting to Atlanta. My awesome idea was to change the old General Motors area into our little mini Vegas strip. But I don't know if you guys know, somebody recently bought it, and it's about to be some other kind of plan. So somebody stole my idea, but my idea was to change that whole area into Vegas.
All you needed was a $200 million loan, and you could have snapped that up, man.
I should have asked Don. He got the 10,000. I don't know what I was doing, Don. Why you didn't give me that $2 million, man? We could have got rich. I could have put slot machines all in Doraville.
Hey, my idea with that area was to convince the NHL to bring back another hockey team. And built another arena in that area because I think another arena in that area would be good. But
we know it can work with the right ownership and the right place, right? So it's just got to have that right cocktail.
I mean, you see, Atlanta. One thing we have to give Arthur Blank credit for when he first took over the Falcons and with the Atlanta United, he knows how to market. He knows how to market. You saw the buzz when he first took over the Falcons. The buzz was different. The buzz was different under the ranking, under the Smith family. When Atlanta United. So one thing about Arthur Blank, whatever he brings in, He's going to find the niche to promote it. He knows how to market. He is a marketing genius. That is the thing I believe that sets Arthur Blank apart as a businessman. He knows how to market his product.
Absolutely. And he hires the right people. And that's where I think a lot of people make mistakes is they don't know how to hire people and then let them do their job. Don't micromanage like a lot of these big billionaires, right? They want to get in the weeds with everything.
Yeah. All right. So that the last question I just read actually done about the prognosis for the international. That was a question that I got text live. My cousin was checking out the show, so that was one of his questions.
Okay.
Did we get any other Twitter questions? I just looked. I didn't see anything in the box.
Nah. We getting.
All right. Now, I will say we don't get many questions on our soccer shows, Jay, but after the show, people will tweet and let our page know, hey, that was informative. We didn't know. So our people don't get a lot of questions because we don't know what questions to ask, but we're interested. We're interested.
No,
we just don't know what to ask yet.
and hey, and you know, people can hit me up directly at JAY_Riddle RIDDLE whenever they want on Twitter, and I'll be able to. My DMs are open. Just hit me up. Whatever you want to know. I'm an open book, and we're always wanting to help people understand the game and get into it. And we pride ourselves on Relegated Lane Night Fan TV. We don't talk down to people. We're not here to educate you. We don't know all the answers, but what we do is we can share our love of the game and get you plugged in with people and cool stuff to get you plugged in. So that, if you want to know where to find the coolest stuff, we'll send you to all the hot spots and all that stuff. So do it up.
And this how we know that Jay is a professional, because I wasn't even serving it up for him to close out his show and give his information right there. But y'all see how he segues because he's such a professional. Once again, I'm Coach Mario, Real One Baby at Twitter. You can find me always. Any kind of sports talk, hit me up. Let them know Don and my partner in crime, the man behind the boards. I got to let y'all know as well. I'm sorry, I got to say this. Don is the one, everybody, who keeps the show running. Don does all the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm not even going to lie. I don't even know how to do it. So I got to give it up for my partner in crime. He is the one who makes this machine go. So, Don, thank you for that, and let them know where they can check you out at. And Don got a lot of money, too, y'all.
Man, you putting my business out there like that, man. Putting my business out there like that. Anyway, yeah, I know I'm the Don. Y'all can catch me at pretty much any Atlanta sports team, stadium, arena, whatever. I plan on going to a Braves game, I guess sometime next month, in the next month, or sometime in May. And I'm also going to see a United game in the same. I got to find a weekend that the Braves play and United play. So if I could just go up there one weekend, I can just go to 2 games.
Let's do it. We're gonna do it together.
You can find Don at the Atlanta United team store.
Purchasing $30 memorabilia cups.
Hey man, y'all gonna have all these folks coming at me, man, asking them, can I buy them some?
Look, Don's DMs are open as well.
I don't have a DM.
All right. Like I say, Jay, once again, thanks for coming on. And I'm pretty sure as the season goes on, we love you to be a FOS friend of show, and we love to have you on again.
Anytime, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. And once again, as always, Don, 1, 2, 3. Come holla at your hometown sports podcast.
All right. Y'all have a great evening. We out.